AITA for canceling my wife's solo trip after learning she used my money to pay for her lover? I'm 32 years old, and I work in commercial real estate. Specifically, I broker deals for large corporations looking to lease office, warehouse, or retail space. It's a high-stress job with constant travel, client dinners, and negotiations that can drag on for months. But the commissions are insane when you manage to close big contracts. Last year was the best of my career. I earned nearly $400,000 in commissions from 3 enormous deals, including a $50 million warehouse complex for a logistics company and a downtown office tower lease that netted me 6 figures. I'm not saying this to brag, just so you understand why this story gets so intense. My wife, Delilah, is 28. We've been married for 3 years, together for 5. When I met her, she was working as an administrative assistant at a dental clinic, making about $35,000 a year. She was sweet back then. She talked about building a life together, having kids one day, the usual stuff. She admired my work ethic and my ambition. We had a plan, save for a bigger house, start a family when we were more stable. But ever since my income skyrocketed in the last 2 years, she changed completely. It started with designer handbags that cost more than most people's monthly rent, a $200 a month gym membership, weekly spa appointments, and weekend trips to wine country with her friends every other month. The woman who once clipped coupons and got excited about finding a good deal suddenly thought buying things on sale was tacky. I thought she was just enjoying the fruits of our labor. After all, I worked 16-hour days for years to get here. Why not live a little now that it was all starting to pay off? But looking back, I realized the exact moment she stopped seeing me as her husband and started seeing me as her personal walking ATM. Last Tuesday night, I was in my home office around 9 p.m., reviewing contracts for a $2 million industrial deal that could set us up financially for the next 2 years. I had spreadsheets open, lease comparisons on the second monitor, completely focused. When Delilah walks in, she doesn't knock, doesn't wait for a break. She just stands there in a new designer dress I'd never seen before, probably more expensive than the average person's rent. "I've decided to take a solo wellness retreat," she announces, as if reading from a script. 6 weeks to unplug. It wasn't an "I'm thinking about," or a "what do you think," or anything. She just decided, like she was telling me she'd already ordered takeout. I saved the document I was working on, swiveled my chair around, and gave her my full attention. 6 weeks is a long time, Delilah. When were you planning on talking to me about this? She does this little head tilt she's been doing lately when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. I'm telling you now. I already found the perfect place. I did a lot of research. It's an incredible eco-resort with daily yoga sessions, meditation workshops, spiritual healing ceremonies, and organic, farm-to-table meals. I need to reconnect with myself, find my center again. The way she said it sounded rehearsed. Okay, so what kind of investment are we talking about here? Does it really matter? We can afford it now. Red flag number 1. When someone says, "Does it matter?" about money, it always matters, especially when they say we can afford it instead of I've budgeted for it. How much exactly, Delilah? $12,000 for the whole experience, she says, rolling her eyes. It includes round-trip flights, lodging, meals, yoga classes, spa treatments, meditation sessions. Everything. $12,000 for 6 weeks of finding herself, while I'm working 60-hour weeks closing the biggest deals of my career. That's a lot of money for what's basically a vacation, I said, trying to keep my voice even. It's not just a vacation, Rowan. This is about personal growth, spiritual healing, becoming the best version of myself. You wouldn't understand because you're always buried in work, spreadsheets, and client calls, right? Right, because working my tail off to support her lifestyle means I don't understand personal development. When exactly is this retreat? I asked. I fly out this Friday afternoon. Friday, as in 3 days from now. She had already researched, planned, and booked it, and was telling me with only 72 hours notice. I see. Well, that's actually perfect timing, I told her. Her confident smile started to crumble. What do you mean by that? I mean, if you're going to disappear for 6 weeks to find yourself, I might as well make some plans of my own. I've always wanted to spend some time in Asia, maybe visit a few potential clients in Singapore and Hong Kong. It could be great for business development. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. like I had just announced I was selling the house and joining a traveling circus. You can't just leave too, Rowan. Someone has to stay here and take care of things. What things exactly? I countered. You're going to be doing yoga and meditating. I can work remotely from anywhere with a decent internet connection. What things are you talking about? The house. Paying the bills? Managing what exactly? Now that was interesting. She was perfectly comfortable spending $12,000 of our money on herself, but was suddenly worried about me spending money on a business trip that could generate actual income. Don't worry about it, I said, turning back to my computer screen. I'll make sure everything important is taken care of before I go. She stood there for another minute, expecting me to ask more questions about her retreat or try to talk her out of it. But when I didn't take the bait and just went back to my contracts, she let out an annoyed huff and left the room without another word. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong with this whole situation. The Delilah I married would have been excited to plan trips together or at least have a real conversation about such a big decision. This new Delilah was treating me like a business partner she barely needed to consult before making unilateral decisions with our money. The next morning, Wednesday, I was making my coffee at 7 a.m. when Delilah's phone buzzed loudly on the countertop. She was upstairs in the shower, and I had no intention of snooping, but the name on the screen immediately caught my eye. Anders. The message preview was enough to make my blood run cold. Can't wait to have you all to myself in paradise, baby. Without thinking, I picked up the phone, started scrolling, and uncovered months and months of messages that laid it all out with absolute clarity. This retreat is going to be perfect for us to really connect. Rowan has no idea how incredible you are. 6 weeks with just the two of us sounds like heaven. I can't wait to wake up next to you every morning. My wife's solo retreat was anything but solo. She was flying off to spend 6 weeks playing house with some guy named Anders using the money I earned working 14-hour days. I quickly took screenshots of the most incriminating conversations before she finished her shower. 10 minutes later, she came downstairs with her hair still damp, acting like nothing was wrong. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she immediately grabbed her phone, like she was expecting something important, or how she completely avoided making eye contact. Everything okay this morning? I asked, watching her expression. Yep. All good, she said, typing furiously on her phone. Just confirming some last-minute details for my retreat. A lot of logistics to coordinate. Right, logistics. That's what you call planning an affair now. I spent that whole day thinking about our relationship and how we'd gotten to this point. How she had quit her administrative job just 8 months after we got married because it was too stressful and, in her words, not living up to my potential. How she had started spending 3 or 4 hours a day at the gym, with monthly spa treatments that cost more than a car payment. How she bought designer clothes that cost more than I made in a week when I was first starting out. She had slowly transformed into someone else entirely, someone who saw our marriage as a financial arrangement where I provided unlimited resources and she provided. What exactly? That night, while she was supposedly at her book club, I decided to do some digging. It was easy to find Anders on social media, a personal trainer at her expensive boutique gym. The typical guy who posts shirtless workout videos and inspirational quotes about living your authentic truth and maximizing your potential. His recent post featured a luxury resort, talking about upcoming transformational experiences and life-changing wellness retreats. It all clicked into place with horrifying precision. This wasn't a spiritual awakening or an existential crisis. Delilah had been planning this affair for months, funding every detail with my money. And she was so confident that I would just roll over and accept it that she didn't even bother to cover her tracks well. On Thursday, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. I told my assistant I had an urgent personal matter to attend to, which, frankly, wasn't a lie. My first stop was our main bank. I requested detailed statements for the last 6 months, and let me tell you, Delilah had been busy. $2,400 at a boutique athletic wear store I'd never even heard of. $1,800 on spa treatments and massages. $3,200 at high-end clothing stores. $800 on professional hair and makeup. But the most interesting part was the pattern of cash withdrawals. For $100 here, $600 there. Always at ATMs near her gym or in upscale shopping districts. Next, I called the credit card company and requested a full account review. That's where it got truly shocking. It turned out Delilah had applied for and received a supplementary card in my name 3 months ago without telling me. She had already racked up $6,500 in charges I knew nothing about. Expensive restaurants in areas I never went to, weekend stays at luxury hotels, and even several highly suspicious cash advances. But the real gut punch came when I checked our joint savings account, the one we had been carefully building for the down payment on that bigger house she always talked about. She had withdrawn $8,000 over the last month in 3 separate wire transfers. When I asked the bank representative for more details on where that money went, he told me it had been transferred to a company called Transformational Wellness Experiences, which specialized in luxury retreat packages. She was systematically draining the financial future we had painstakingly planned to fund her affair with her trainer. And she was so utterly confident that I would either never notice or never have the guts to do anything about it that she'd stopped being careful about covering her tracks. That evening, when she got home from what she claimed was her yoga class, but was more likely her final rendezvous with Anders, I was waiting for her in the living room with my laptop open and all the printed statements spread out on the coffee table. "How was your yoga class tonight?" I asked casually. "It was great," she said without looking at me, walking straight to the kitchen. "Very centering and peaceful. I'm just going to finish packing for tomorrow." "Actually, Delilah," I said, "I wanted to run something by you before you go upstairs." She stopped and turned, already annoyed that I was interrupting her routine. "What is it now, Rowan?" I pointed to my computer screen, where our online banking portal was open. "I spent the day getting our finances organized for while you're away, and I found some very interesting transactions I wanted to talk to you about." Her face went completely pale, like all the blood had drained from her body. "What kind of transactions?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Well, for instance, these $8,000 in wire transfers you made to something called Transformational Wellness Experiences. I called the resort you said you were going to, and they told me they don't accept wire transfers. All payments are made by credit card." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "And then there's this supplementary credit card you applied for and received without mentioning it to me. $6,500 in charges over the last 3 months, including multiple hotel stays and dinners that are clearly for 2 people. Rowan, I can explain everything if you just give me a chance. I'm sure you can come up with something creative, Delilah. But I'll tell you what, I honestly don't want to hear whatever story you've prepared because we both know exactly what this is." She tried to look defiant, but her hands were trembling, and she couldn't meet my eyes. "You don't know anything. I really know more than enough. Have a wonderful time with Anders." The look of pure panic that flashed across her face confirmed absolutely everything I needed to know. Delilah didn't sleep a wink that night. I could hear her pacing back and forth in the bedroom, probably trying to calculate how much I knew and what her options were. Meanwhile, I was lying there making my own plans. On Friday morning, she came downstairs with her set of expensive luggage, another purchase I had apparently funded, trying to act as if everything was normal. "My flight leaves at noon," she said, not looking at me directly. "I'll just get a cab to the airport so you don't have to drive me." I looked up from my coffee and the newspaper. "Perfect. That actually works out for me. I have a meeting with my lawyer this morning." "Your lawyer? Why do you need to see your lawyer?" "Just some business planning and asset protection strategies. Nothing you need to worry about." She stared at me for a few uncomfortable seconds. "Rowan, maybe we should have a real conversation when I get back from the retreat." "Maybe," I replied. "I guess that will depend entirely on how things play out while you're gone." After she left in the cab, I spent the entire day executing my defensive strategy. My lawyer helped me open a separate business account at another bank and transfer the bulk of our liquid assets into it. It was completely legal, as my income had funded our entire lifestyle. He also helped me document everything Delilah had done financially, creating a paper trail of evidence that would be invaluable if this ended in a divorce proceeding. Next, I called the credit card company and reported Delilah's supplementary card as potentially compromised, which immediately froze it and prevented any further charges. And then I made the call that would change the course of my life. One of my biggest clients, a multinational corporation with offices all over Asia, had been trying to get me to join them to expand their Southeast Asian operations for over a year. They had offered me a 6-month contract in Singapore with a full relocation package, a generous housing allowance, and a commission structure that would likely earn me in 6 months what many people make in 2 years. I had turned down the opportunity before because Delilah threw a fit when I mentioned the possibility of leaving her social circle, her wellness routine, and her comfortable life here. But Delilah was no longer in a position to throw tantrums about my career decisions. I called the client that afternoon and enthusiastically accepted the position. They were thrilled and immediately started processing my work visa and relocation package. I booked my flight for the following Monday. The timing was perfect. To everyone in our social circle, it would look like I was just going on an extended business trip while my wife was on her spiritual retreat. Perfectly reasonable, completely innocent. On Saturday morning, around 10 a.m., I received a text from Delilah, made it to paradise safely. The resort is absolutely magical and more beautiful than the pictures. Miss you already. I replied, glad you made it safely. I'm flying to Singapore tomorrow for work. Major client emergency that needs immediate attention. I won't have good cell service for a while, but I'll text when I can. What, Rowan? You can't just leave too. I know, client emergency. This contract could make or break the deal. You know how important this is for our future. Enjoy every minute of your retreat. I put my phone on airplane mode and headed to the airport with a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. Singapore was everything I had hoped for and more. The work was challenging, the city was incredible. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. No one asking for money for spiritual journeys or complaining about my work hours. Just me, doing what I do best, making good money and growing my career. I kept my phone off most of the time, checking messages every few days. Delilah's texts followed a fairly predictable evolution. Week 1. Rowan, where are you? Why aren't you answering my texts? Week 2. This isn't funny anymore. I need to know you're okay. Week 3. The card was declined at dinner. There must be some mistake with the bank. Week 4. Rowan, call me. The bank says our accounts were restructured. That last one made me smile. The accounts weren't restructured. I'd simply moved my money where she couldn't touch it. But the really interesting messages came in week 5 from unknown numbers. Hey, this is Anders. Your wife asked me to contact you. She's having some financial issues and can't get a hold of you. Could you please give her a call? Then another. Rowan, this is Laurel, Delilah's friend. She's really worried about you. She had to leave the retreat early because of money problems. Please call her. Left the retreat early? Now that I hadn't expected, I finally turned my phone all the way on and called Laurel, whom I had met at a couple of Delilah's birthday parties. Rowan, thank goodness, where have you been? Delilah's been going out of her mind trying to reach you. I've been working in Singapore. What's this about her leaving the retreat early? There was a pause. She said there were issues with the resort, something about them being overbooked and not being able to host her for the full time. An interesting spin. I wondered what had really happened. Is she back home now? I asked. Yeah, she got back 3 days ago. She's pretty upset, Rowan. You should probably call her. I did. That conversation was very telling. Rowan, where the hell have you been? I've been messaging you for 5 weeks with no response. You were on your spiritual retreat. I figured you needed space to find yourself. The retreat ended early. I've been home for 3 days. The house is falling apart. We got a foreclosure notice, and the power's been shut off. What? A foreclosure notice? You missed 2 mortgage payments, Rowan. 2. That was impossible. I had set up automatic payments years ago. Unless. Delilah, which account were the mortgage payments coming out of? The joint checking account, the usual one. The joint account that she had been systematically emptying for months. The one that no longer had sufficient funds after she financed her affair. Well, I said calmly, I guess you should have thought about that before you spent all the money on your boyfriend. What are you talking about, Rowan? I need you to come home and fix this mess. I can't. I'm working on a major deal. Then transfer money into the account. I can't pay for anything. My card isn't working. Your card isn't working because I canceled it, and I'm not transferring a single cent until we have a serious conversation about your vacation. The silence on the other end was deafening. Rowan, what are you saying? Why are you acting like this? I think you know exactly why, Delilah. I hung up. I flew back to the States a week later, not because Delilah asked, but because my Singapore contract had finished its first phase, and I needed to sign some documents before the next one. The house was in shambles. Apparently, Delilah had been getting by on credit cards and borrowed money from friends, but that had run out quickly. The yard was overgrown, past due notices were taped to the door, and when I walked inside, it was obvious she had been selling things to get by. My expensive sound system was gone, along with several pieces of furniture and most of my electronics. Delilah was sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills and paperwork, her face looking gaunt. "Rowan, thank God you're home. I've been trying to figure out this whole financial situation, but I don't understand how the accounts work. The bank won't give me any information, the mortgage company won't talk to me. And where's Anders?" I interrupted. She went completely still. "What? Anders, your boyfriend, the trainer, the one you spent $12,000 to go on vacation with." Her face crumpled. "Rowan, please, let me explain." "I don't need an explanation. I just want to know if he's helping you pay the bills he helped create." She started to cry. "When the money got tight, he said he needed to focus on his training business." "We're not. It's not like that. He left you as soon as you couldn't fund his lifestyle?" "Interesting. It wasn't like that. What we had was real. So real that he disappeared the moment you couldn't afford luxury resorts anymore." I looked around at the chaos she had caused. "Here's what's going to happen, Delilah. I've been offered a permanent position in Singapore. It's great money, an incredible opportunity. I'm taking it. You can't just leave me here like this. Look at me, Rowan, please. I made a terrible mistake. I'll do anything to fix it. You didn't make a mistake. You made calculated choices. You chose to steal our money. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to cheat on me with a guy you barely knew. Now you get to live with those choices." She grabbed my arm, desperate. "I'll pay you back every cent. Just please don't abandon me." "With what money, Delilah? You don't have a job. You spent our savings. You've ruined our credit. What exactly are you going to pay me back with?" The desperation in her eyes was something I had never seen before. For the first time in our entire relationship, she was really seeing me, not as a walking ATM, but as a person who could actually leave. "I'll get a real job. I'll work 2 jobs if I have to. I'll sell everything I ever bought with your money. You already sold my things to buy food. Then I'll sell my things, my clothes, my jewelry, everything." I pretended to consider it. "You know what? That's actually not a bad idea. You should do that. Use that money to get current on the mortgage." "And if I do, will you stay?" "No." The next morning, I started packing my essential belongings. Delilah followed me around the house like a lost puppy, alternating between pleading and making empty threats. "You can't just abandon your wife. I'll get a lawyer and sue you for alimony." "With what money? You can't afford a lawyer." "I'll tell everyone what kind of person you really are." "Oh yes. And what kind of person am I, Delilah?" "The kind who works his ass off to support his family while his wife steals money to cheat on him." "Great, tell them that story." But the real entertainment was just beginning. Around noon, Anders showed up at the door. Apparently, Delilah had been sending him desperate texts ever since I got back, and he had finally decided to come check on her. What he really wanted was to get back an expensive watch he had left behind during one of his secret visits to our house. I answered the door. "You must be Anders," I said. "I'm Rowan, the husband who paid for your vacation." The guy was exactly what I had pictured. Fake tan, shirt that was too tight, the classic gym selfie type. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble. I just came to get my stuff." "Your stuff in my house." Delilah appeared behind me, looking pale. "Rowan, please, don't." "This is perfect," I said. "Anders, I've got good news for you. Delilah's looking for someone to help her pay off the $15,000 in debt she racked up during your little romantic getaway. Since you two have such a deep connection, I figured you'd want to step up." Anders turned white. That's not really my responsibility." "No, because she spent a good chunk of that money directly on you. Hotels, restaurants, your share of the trip. Sounds like you benefited quite a bit from her generosity." "I never asked her to pay for anything." "Oh, right. You just let her pay for everything because you're broke, too." Even more impressive. Delilah was looking back and forth between us, starting to understand what kind of man she had destroyed her marriage for. "Anders," she whispered, "I thought we were building something real." "Delilah, I told you from the start. This was just for fun. I never talked about leaving my girlfriend." "His girlfriend?" "This piece of trash had a girlfriend the whole time." Delilah's face went through about 10 different emotions in 3 seconds. "Your girlfriend? We've been together for 2 years. Did you know this wasn't serious? And just like that, Delilah's grand love affair was revealed for what it truly was. A broke personal trainer using a lonely, married woman for free vacations and expensive dinners. Anders grabbed his watch and practically ran out the door. Delilah collapsed into a chair and started crying uncontrollably. He was using me, she whispered. Yes, I said, continuing to pack. He used me for money the whole time. Yes. And now I've lost everything. Yes. She looked up, mascara streaking down her face. Rowan, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought he really cared about me. Delilah, you were married to someone who did care about you. You threw it all away for a guy who saw you as a free ticket to dinners and resorts. That's not bad luck, that's bad judgment. Over the next few hours, reality just kept hitting her, one wave after another. Her friends started ignoring her calls when they realized she wouldn't be able to pay back the money she owed them. The credit card companies were hounding her on the phone, demanding payments. The mortgage company scheduled the foreclosure for the following month. But the best part came that evening when Anders's actual girlfriend showed up at our door. Are you Delilah? She asked when Delilah opened it. Yes, I'm Celine, Anders's girlfriend. We need to talk. It turned out Celine had discovered the affair and wanted compensation. Anders had told her he was traveling for an advanced fitness certification program, and she had contributed money toward what she thought was his professional development. When she found out the truth, she demanded her money back. So now Delilah owed money to Anders's girlfriend, too. I watched this beautiful disaster unfold from the kitchen as I finished packing. Delilah was trying to explain to a furious Celine that she had no money left. Celine was threatening to sue. It was the perfect storm of consequences catching up to my cheating wife. When Celine left, Delilah came into the kitchen where I was taping up my last box. Rowan, she said, her voice broken, I know you have every right to hate me, but I'm desperate. The house goes into foreclosure next week. I have no money, no job, no friends who will help me. I have nowhere to go. That sounds like a serious problem, I replied. Please, I'm begging you. Just help me get back on my feet a little, and I'll sign any settlement you want. I'll give you everything in the divorce. I'll take on all the debt. Just please don't leave me completely on the street. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had been so confident she could steal from me to fund an affair, so convinced she could plan a 6-week getaway with another man using the money meant for our home, so arrogant she thought I would just take it and keep supporting her no matter what she did. Delilah, I said, 6 months ago, if you had come to me and said you were unhappy, that you wanted to go to therapy or take some time apart or even discuss a divorce, I would have worked with you. We could have handled it fairly. You would have left this marriage with enough money to start a decent new life. She nodded, sobbing. I know. I should have. I should have been honest. But instead, you chose to lie, steal, and cheat. You chose to treat me like a bank account, not a human being. You chose Anders over the person who actually loved and supported you. I made a horrible mistake, she sobbed. No, Delilah, it wasn't a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices, and now you get to live with every single one of them. I picked up my box and walked toward the door. So that's it, she screamed after me. You're just going to leave me with absolutely nothing. I turned around one last time. Delilah, you're leaving this marriage with exactly what you brought into it. Nothing. As I loaded my car, I could hear her inside, making frantic phone calls, probably trying to get someone else to rescue her from the mess she had created. But her family had already heard the whole story and refused to help, unable to forgive her for throwing away a good marriage for a cheap fling. Her friends were tired of her asking for money she'd never pay back, and Anders was surely already charming his next meal ticket. I drove away and didn't look back. 3 months later, the divorce papers arrived at my new address in Singapore. Delilah asked for nothing in the settlement. She couldn't even afford a lawyer to fight for anything. 6 months after that, I heard from mutual acquaintances that she had moved back in with her parents and was working a retail job at a department store, trying to pay off the debts she had accumulated. Anders, unsurprisingly, had moved on to charming another woman with money, while his girlfriend Celine had taken him to small claims court and won. Though collecting from him proved difficult, the guy had nothing of value. Sometimes the most effective response to betrayal isn't some elaborate revenge, but simply stepping out of the way and letting people face the natural consequences of their own choices. Delilah wanted to use me as a financial safety net while she explored her options with other men, so I took the net away. Turns out, she never learned how to fly on her own. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.